It has been said that average people want you to stay average. Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast, the podcast designed to challenge you to break the mold that average has on the world. Each episode offers insights directly from those who choose to break average every day. Now, for the latest insights, here are your hosts, Paul Gustafson and Rick Morris.
Welcome to the season finale of the Breaking Average podcast. I think I pre-called the season finale a little early on the last one, but this one, I think I'm really right. This is season 3 finale. I am your co-host, Rick Morris, and my other partner here, as always, Paul Gustafson. How you doing, Paul?
Rick, it is great to be with you. Can't believe here we are, season finale. What a wonderful, fantastic season it's been. And we're going to have a great discussion today.
So season 3 in the books, and we really dedicated that. We started this season with, I think still, if you haven't heard it, please go listen to probably one of my favorite episodes I think we've done in all three seasons was that value of failure, our season opener. And we had no idea going into it, but we got into a flow, the two of us just riffing like crazy. It was powerful. I've listened to it a few times since it's come out myself, and don't even remember saying some of that stuff. That's what I love about what we do. But I was like, yeah, that was good stuff. But we also went on this journey, and a lot of people know that I produce the podcast, but they don't know that you're the brains behind it, Paul. You're the one that kind of comes up with these series and really pushes some of these ideas to the forefront, which I love. But you came up with this idea of let's grab 16 books, and not necessarily the bestseller list or whatever, but it just had to be a little bit older. Yep. It had to be something that we should go reread. And the challenge for us was to reread it and see if anything new came out, right? Like we're in different places in our life. And we didn't have any idea how much work that was going to be when you threw that out to read 16 books and get that done in 16 weeks. But, here we are, partner, that's done. Why don't you take us through just really a recap if this is your first podcast or you're just catching up here. What were the 16 books that we went through, Paul?
Yeah, it's been, like I said, phenomenal season. And before we did the books, we did those 2 episodes. The one that you mentioned is, I think, one of the highest downloaded podcasts that we've ever done. So I do invite you to go back to the September 2nd podcast that was aired, The Value of Failure. That was so good. And why I wanted to kind of just at least mention that was the books that followed a few weeks later. That was sort of an element to it, a thread. There's a common thread that I think is there, realizing that there's value in stepping forward in the failures that we might experience. And when we get out of our comfort zone, we began to have new discoveries. And each of these books really kind of reveal perspectives that I think are really powerful to get to those discoveries. So the week that followed The Power of Failure was The Power of Wooden, and that was great too. But
yeah, that was a fun one.
The books, let's get into that. 16 of these. I'm just going to unpack these. This is like the fastest 2 minutes in podcast history. We'll see if I can do this. All right. So the first one we did was Marcus Buckingham's book, the Gallup book called First Break All the Rules, which is like perfectly suited for us, breaking average. And that gave us a really context from a leadership standpoint of how to step forward and kind of change the world, change our world. All right. And then Boundaries for Leaders, that gave us some context of like really creating the structure, or at least from a mental capacity, of how we have a clear working memory and attentive to the things that we need to be attentive to, and inhibit the things that don't really matter, and have that focus. Why? Because we're ridiculously in charge. And then we did Bob Berg's book, Adversaries and Allies. Really great book in terms of how you can really leverage people around you, work with them, turn them, maybe they're an adversary, but maybe transition them into more of an ally for you, and work together towards a common goal. And that's really a powerful book. Then we went into Brendan Bouchard's book. Wow, what a great pick that was. Talking about habits, high-performing habits. And that was solid. Wish we had time to unpack that. But go back and watch that. That's a great one. Then the newest book, Rick, was, most of these books have been out for 5, 10, 20, even longer. But the newest book was Michael Hyatt's book, The Vision Driven Leader. I had gotten an advanced copy of that 2 or 3 years ago. So it seemed like an older book to me, but it's really not that old. That's a great book. If you want really focus on vision, what a great discussion we had on that. That was good. So let me pause there because I want to breathe. So there's a bunch there. So I just identified 6 books. Pretty cool. I mean, which of those 6 really kind of jumped out for you?
I think First Break Out the Rules was good for me to go back through, because that's probably one of the first real leadership books I started to delve into in my growth journey. So to read it again, 20 some odd years later, was insane. That one was really, really good for me. And then Vision Driven Leader, I hadn't read. So, some of these I'd picked, some of these you had picked, and then we had a couple that were kind of like universal.
Yes.
When we went through that. And so a few of these I hadn't read. And so Vision Driven Leader was a new one for me, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good. The one that I really enjoyed going back and reading was Boundaries for Leaders out of that group. So, but I loved them all. The Bouchard book was the one book that I was like, whoa, this is better than what the reviews say. And the reviews aren't bad. There was just a couple of reviews that threw me off early on, and it made me realize that don't always trust a review.
For sure.
All right. So the next batch, let me just go through another quick batch here. They keep getting better, buddy. These are awesome. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows how great that one is. The Charisma Myth. Man, that you dropped a gold one on that one. I had never heard of that book, or maybe I had, but I just hadn't read it. And boy, that's solid book. Olivia Fox Cabane. Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. This is the book that you probably, of all the Simon Sinek books, you may not see this in the bookstore, but if you do, grab it. It's great book, great discussion. Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. Mentor Leader, Tony Dungy. Good to Great, Jim Collins. And To Sell is Human, Dan Pink. So that's kind of the next batch of books there that I wanted to highlight. So you had Covey, Cabane, Sinek, Gladwell, Dungy, Collins, and Dan Pink. So what one jumped out for you on that one?
I really enjoyed our conversation on To Sell is Human.
Yeah.
I think that there was a really, really good findings in that book. Again, revisited. So, and I don't know, I may have said I read it. I don't know if I read it before or not, but there was a lot of aha moments for me in that book.
Yeah. Lots of aha moments for sure.
So the next one too. Come on.
What's that?
Tony Dungy too. Come on.
Oh, Tony Dungy. It was great. I'm looking back at the Amazon ratings on these books. The number 1 rated book that we did this year of the batch that I just shared is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's the number one. Well, it's 239 on Amazon's ratings. It's pretty high. There's another one really close that we'll mention here in a minute. The one that is probably the least highest of the bunch is Adversaries and Allies, which is, I'm sort of surprised. I guess they didn't market it as much, but it is definitely
I was going to say, it's just not as well known.
Yeah, probably not as well known. Another book that was highly regarded is Good to Great. That's way up there. But To Sell is Human isn't too bad. But yeah, some good ones in there. Malcolm Gladwell, definitely highly rated. Simon Sinek's highly rated. Okay, so next batch of those books, by the way. So yours was the Dan Pink. I would agree, 100%. Dan Pink. But I like Simon's book as well. All right, here we go. Next batch, final batch. We did Robert Cialdini. Can't talk again today. Robert Cialdini's Influence. We did 4 Disciplines of Execution, Sean Covey. Dare to Lead, Brene Brown. And then last week we did The Alchemist with Paulo Coelho. So great book, great set of books. What do you think? Well, what was the one for you?
I think The Alchemist was my favorite of that. Is, again, just one of those really, really hidden gems if you haven't read it.
Yeah, that was the surprise one, right? Because early on, if you told me what book is going to jump out for me, I would not have picked Alchemist. But then, having read it and listened to it, and like, wow, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's up there. I like Dare to Lead. That's actually right next to 7 Habits. It's up there in the Amazon ratings is one of the best books. So it's a cross up between Dare to Lead and The Alchemist for me. So those are our books, 16 phenomenal books. We invite you to go back and listen to some of those and tell us your take. Maybe there's some other books that you'd love for us to do in the future. Let us know on that. So those are the 16. What a great season so far, but we still got a little bit more to go to land the plane here, huh?
Yeah, that was a phenomenal list of books, Paul, and it really good journey all the way through too. We kind of picked them randomly, but for us to finish with a journey book like Alchemist through all those other things, really just kind of perfectly. You would think we actually really sat down and organized and ordered these books in a certain way, but that was the order in which we picked them.
Yeah.
So to finish with the journey book, I thought was really, to me, it was really funny.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the universe conspired for the order that we had.
That was it. That was it. And so this is our season finale. And what I thought we could do from a learning perspective in 2 ways here. So learning perspective number 1, this is something we do at our company as part of our all hands meetings that we have weekly, is we get into breakout groups. And in the breakout groups, Brendan will ask us 2 or 3 questions, or sometimes 4, and he just throws them out. And then we get into breakout groups of about 3 or 4 people, and we all go around and answer the questions. Number 1, it makes us think to answer the question. Number 2, we get to learn about the people in a different way. This is very similar to the concept of the leadership game. So if you haven't heard about the leadership game, there's a great tool that the John Maxwell team has, and there's tons of John Maxwell team members that are in your area. But it's the same concept. In the leadership game, you get people talking in different aspects by asking different questions, but you learn about somebody. The one that always stuck out is like, what's a hidden talent that you have that maybe your coworkers don't know about? And people write that down, and then they reveal that. And that's always one of these big revealing moments, because you just learn something about somebody that you're sitting right next to and working with all along. And so I thought maybe we could do that, Paul.
Yeah.
I'll throw you some questions. You haven't been prepped on these questions at all. And so it's kind of the same thing. So I want the 2 learnings. 1, they can learn a little bit about more about you and me. And number 2, see how to facilitate a session like this so that they can bring that to their teams or to their company or that kind of stuff. So the first question that we always start with, you start every single one with this question. What are you grateful for? And I want to make sure that we time box this into this season, right? So the season kicked off in September. Yep. It's now the end of the year. So for the last 3 months, what's something that you have gratitude or that you're grateful for, Paul?
Yep. Fantastic question. Grateful. I would say 1, first family, of course, and just the love and the care that my family has. And over the last 3 months, I mean, we've all gone through struggles and challenges, and COVID is still upon us when you think about it. So I think for me is, despite the challenges, knowing that there are other people there and cheering you on, encouraging you, and helping support. And I love that support. I love the support that we have. I love the support I get from you. It's so vital. Get close to those people that can really support you. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for our podcast too, because I think we've had some great breakout moments here, some takeaways and aha moments. I love those defining moments, and there's been a few of those this year for sure. So I'm thankful for those. How about you?
Yeah, thankful for the podcast as well. We've shared that we do this on Sundays, and it's a really good way to kick off the week. We get really introspective. We think, we get vulnerable. We tell stories, and so it's been very helpful. I'm grateful. In the last 3 months, my relationship with my kids. I've been very transparent on the podcast. We had a very difficult year as divorce was finalizing. There's a lot of change. My divorce actually finalized during this season of the podcast, although it took 18 months or whatever to get there. But the amount of healing that's been happening with the kids. Both kids are with me, and the conversations that we get into now, and getting to really know each other at a different level. I'm really grateful for. I'm so surprised by their resilience, and I still get shocked at some of the stories that I hear that I had no idea that they felt or went through. But really grateful to be having those conversations with them.
Yeah.
So next question, and a lot of these I stole from Brendan. This one really made me think and threw me for a second. And again, I know if you have a ton of time to think about this, you'll come up with a better answer, Paul. But the point is what's on top of your head here.
Okay.
What is the best lesson that you got from your parents that you feel that you've instilled to your kids? And if you don't have children out there, then what's a lesson that you learned from your parents that you've inspired into somebody else?
Yep. All right. Wow, that's a good one. I'm sure I could think of a whole lot more than what I'm going to do here.
Sure.
So the first one that came to me as soon as you asked the question is live a life that impacts others.
Yeah.
Live a life that impacts others. That's my dad's, I don't know if it was a mantra or not, but that was certainly the way he lived his life. And that's what he emphasized, is to live a life that impacts others, so that your impact is there long after you're gone. And that's certainly reflective of him. And the other thing too, the one that I pass on, and hopefully I pass that on to my kids. I'm trying to emphasize that, but the one for sure that I know I did early on as a dad that I really got from my mom and dad was just do your best. Just do your very best. You don't have to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's about just trying your best. If you try your best, it'll all work out. Just give it your best. Give it your best. So that's the advice that I continue to share with folks. Look, just give it your best. Just give it your best. And so those are the two things that popped for me. Again, I'm sure I'll think of some other ones as the day goes on, but it's a great question. How about you?
Mine being a little bit more tactical, I think is my work ethic and not having an ego as to what my title or salary is. And it's something I'm watching my daughter who's really starting to embark in her career, already employed. But I'm very transparent with my kids. I sit them down, and this is something that literally just happened last week, Paul. But I showed them the budget and what I make, where the money goes, all that other stuff. And I showed them that in October I was producing a negative in December and January, but I knew that in October. And so you can worry or whatever, and just my work ethic and not having an ego in a job, I just took action. And so we've shared, that I'm coaching Orange Theory Fitness. One of the reasons why I'm coaching Orange Theory Fitness is I saw that as the way to make up that negative. And I saw that in advance to be able to go and start to do what I needed to do right now. So it wasn't in any kind of hardship in December and January. Yeah. And so once, there was a lot that went into that, but last week, as I was projecting things out and understood how everything worked, I sat down and showed it to him again. And I was like, that's the difference. Like, I'm not going to sit there and not, I basically found out a way to monetize my 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. time is what I did. Right. Yeah. So I didn't want to impact my job. And I did. And I sat down with Brendan and was like, this is what I got to go do. And he's like all supportive about it. But I found a way to monetize 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 3 days a week and a Saturday. Yeah. While not really impacting family time or anything else like that. And I learned that from my parents. My parents were hard workers. And, if you start listing everything that I do, from being, chairman of the board of the charity, to teaching junior achievement, to doing this podcast, to, working for Brendan, coaching Orange Theory Fitness, and a myriad of other things that I've been committed to. It's that work ethic that my father instilled in me. So I'm super grateful for that.
That's great.
So I want to switch gears here on you a little bit. I'm going to ask you two questions. We're around the holiday season. Mm-hmm. So what's one of the best gifts that you personally have ever been given? And then I'm going to reverse that and say, what do you think is one of the best gifts you have given to someone else?
Okay. So, that's a tough one. Okay. Yeah, you're hitting me. All right. So first of all, I recognize that folks are watching and listening to this probably post Christmas. So hopefully you had a wonderful Christmas. Happy New Year to you. Um, so and I think right. So we're filming this just before Christmas, so I'm assuming this is going to post after. Um, but Christmas, I think the best gift I ever got was there's a bunch that come to mind. Um, this is going to sound crazy. As a kid, it was Legos.
Yeah.
All right. And getting like a whole bunch of Legos. And it just turned my imagination on. And I would just get up in the morning, like everybody else is sleeping. I'm down in the family room in the basement and I'm just building stuff out of Legos. So it kind of turned my engineer mind on as a young child. So that probably was more significant as a toy. Was probably the most significant toy I ever had. I remember our first big toy was getting a space helmet when I used to live in Brazil. Got a space helmet and I used to imagine being an astronaut. So that I remember, I loved it, but I don't know, it never made it back from Brazil, so I never saw it again. But the Legos, they made it back from Brazil, and I always got new Legos every year, and I would just build new cool stuff. But then as years went on, all right, I'm in college, and it was creating that the next big gift was a trip. You know, it was spending just like 10 days out in Colorado skiing and having fun. And I realized that the greatest gift isn't necessarily a tangential from an item standpoint, but it's the experiences that we can create. So it's experience-based giving. I love that. And that's what I want to do. That's my favorite gift to give, is to give the gift of experience. And sometimes it might be an experience eating at a restaurant, or going to see the Blue Man Group, or going to a game, or, you know, lots of different ways to do it, a trip. But I love giving experiences. That's my favorite. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah. So best gift I ever received, I'll do two like you did. First one, my dad gave me a Commodore 64.
Yeah,
And this is well before we had bulletin board systems. If you ever
I do. I
you had to
remember that.
dial, take the thing out of the handle and put it in on the VIC-20 modem.
Yeah.
But that gave me that love for computers, which obviously was a stalwart in my career. And it wasn't necessarily the gift, but the way they did it. Coming back to work ethic, how they even enforced that and instilled that in me. They bought me a car for Christmas when I was 16. What they did is they got me a beater. They got me just something that ran, and they made the down payment and paid the first 6 months insurance, and then I had to pay them $50 a week to drive it. And so I had to work and I had to prioritize and I had to understand, and I could not pay the $50. I just didn't get to drive the car, and so they just kind of threw that choice to me. And while there were some things I wish could have been done differently, that started that work ethic of knowing that I have this goal, I've got to have a certain amount, got to get it done. I can balance and do other things I wanted to do. So I was really thankful for that. And then I had a tie for the same thing, but it was experiences. Best gift I feel like I've ever given. Number one on that list is what was a trip as well, Paul. So my father-in-law kept telling me he felt his name was significant. His last name was Funderburg. And he was like, there's not very many of us around. I know it's significant, but he didn't know why. And so I paid for a genealogy study for him. And it turned out, everybody thinks that they're royalty. He actually was, Paul. He was a direct descendant of King Rupert of Germany. So as the story went really quickly, is there was two sons from King Rupert. One was in power with no direct heirs. One was out of power that had three sons. So fearing for the three sons' lives, literally like in the 1600s, sent them over to the United States, or 1700s to the United States. And when they got here, they said, what's your name or where are you from? And they said Funderburg, which translated from German, from the castle. And so Funderburg became the name. And once they got over here, but he was a direct, literally father to father to father to father to King Rupert. So we found this out. And the next year I was invited to speak in Warsaw, Poland around Christmas time. So for Christmas, I took my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, both my kids, my wife, and we went on this epic kind of European vacation journey. I rented a 9-person van stick shift that I drove from Warsaw, Poland. We went down to Auschwitz. We went to Prague, stayed in the castle that inspired Sleeping Beauty, but we stopped in Berg. And I have this beautiful picture that we turned into a canvas of my father-in-law sitting on a bench under the crest of King Rupert. And that experience itself was probably the best one. And of course, he died a couple of years later, but like every time I saw him, he talked about that trip. The other one is similar. One of my best friends, he passed away, but he was a big theater guy. And Wayne Brady was playing in Hamilton in Chicago, and I had a speaking engagement in Des Moines, Iowa. And so I took my buddy, and we went and saw Hamilton with Wayne, got to go backstage and, see all that. And then I went and did my speaking engagement, and he passed away about 6 months later. Oh, so wow. Those two experiences though, like I remember driving from, Chicago to Des Moines with them, and he was like, that was the greatest night of my life. Like that was like everything I ever wanted theater to be. And so those are my favorite. All right. Good. Let's transition then to what are your early goals? Let's focus on Q1 of 2022. What is an early goal in Q1 for you in 2022, Paul?
Okay. All right. That's another one I'm not ready for, but let me just quick thought for you. So we both loved giving experiences. Yes. Just on this last one. What came to mind also, as you were sharing there, was something that I just want to plug real quick. And I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's giving kids experiences. I love the
Give Kids the World.
Yeah. Tell everybody about that, because there's an opportunity, right? So for you to support a child that, give them an experience that they couldn't get otherwise. So share about that.
Yeah. Give Kids the World. I found this foundation when I was in Orlando, and literally I was in the television production studio and at my high school. And I was like, really good friends with the teacher there. And I was kind of his go-to pupil anyway. So I was a teacher assistant. I answered the phone and they needed somebody to video something, and Chris Kirchie wasn't available. And I was like, I'll go do it. And it ended up being the first time that Russian children were coming to this foundation. So they wanted to market. And Give Kids the World brings terminally ill children into an experience in Orlando. It's all expenses paid. Each week there's a theme that they do. So they have all kinds of different themes, and they take these children and families to Disney and give them an experience of a lifetime. Everything's taken care of. It's a phenomenal organization. We benefited that when we did the 30-year anniversary for the Mickey Mouse Club. The Mickey Mouse Club just did another event, I want to say in October, where they did another fundraiser for Give Kids the World. It's a phenomenal organization. And you can just search Give Kids the World and find out about it, but it's all experience-based. And you want to talk about over the top. These are the most amazing things. You can't help but to get fired up when you're around that place.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Love it. There you go, guys. So I invite you to help somebody get that experience, help that child. All right. So you asked me a question about what are my goals for Q1. Did I get the question right?
That's right. Q1, okay. 2022.
So talking about what we just did gave me time to think at least a little bit.
I knew that's what you were doing. I wasn't going to call you out on that, but I knew that's what you were doing. You were stalling.
I'm being transparent. So
I'll tell you what, though, it was the greatest of all stalls, period. that was a great all stall.
Yeah, I think for me, Q1, this is both personally and professionally. It's engagement. In light of COVID and everything else, the challenges that a business has experienced, and this is not just our business, I know other businesses as well. I think the biggest struggle and challenge is to really create engagement with others. And it's, look at it from a company standpoint. You've got culture there that's so important, but they're hiding behind the glass, just like you and I right now. Just so everybody knows, Rick's in Birmingham. I'm in just south of Washington, D.C. So we're quite a distance away. Now we've got some good technology working and we can really interact. but a lot of folks are hiding behind glass and they're not seeing each other in the physical space. Rick and I saw each other just 3 months ago in Orlando. So we find ways to get together, but for the most part, most businesses are struggling in that area unless they're in the service arena serving food of some sort. They're probably behind a WebEx or a Zoom or a Teams call or something like that. So there's an engagement issue. So engagement is the big thing from a company standpoint, culture standpoint. It's a big, obviously with customers, that is so important too. You need engagement. And I think one of the struggles that a lot of companies have, businesses have, organizations have is engagement with those stakeholders. So we need that, and myself included. And then I would say partners, engagement there, but community would be the fourth bit. So our company, from a culture, a team standpoint, we want engagement, customer standpoint, partner standpoint, but also that community. And being aware of the opportunities that are there to have engagement with the community. So, because that plays out for you. It plays out when you can add value to your community, then it kind of comes back around. It's what you sow is what you reap kind of standpoint. So engagement is really my big focus for Q1 and really for the whole year, to be honest with you. The other thing too, as far as engagement from a personal standpoint, is I've got a new book that I'm working on. I'm excited.
Nice.
It's called Imagine, and it's I won't dive too much into it. I mean, you can pull maybe more bits and pieces out of it, but I'm super excited. You're going to get you'll be one of the first to read it, Rick. So,
there we go. Excited for that.
It's about engagement from the standpoint of taking what we imagine and providing that hope for others. It's really a true book on hope. It's a book that's based on science, like, okay, the value of hope. I know people say hope's not a strategy, but we talk about how that might be a myth. We talk about how the importance of execution and things like that. So at any rate, I don't want to unpack it. It's super exciting. We got some great stories in there. And that's a book that I want to get done in Q1.
Nice.
All right. How about you?
Yeah, for me, Q1 is the mantra for me is to flip the switch. So I would say over the last 6 months, with everything that's happened in this year, both personally, professionally, I haven't been way high in energy, but I haven't been depressed either. Like I've just been in that line, that existing line.
Yeah.
And I've vocalized that, quite a bit to a lot of people, just holding myself accountable to that. So I'm getting up, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not doing it with that flair or that energy that I'm used to bringing to a situation or bringing to a room or bringing to an event or any of those stuff. And I'm feeling that switch. Like one of the best benefits for me in coaching Orange Theory Fitness is that I have to have that energy. Like I would have to have energy on stage, and I've been missing being on stage in front of people and that interaction and that kind of stuff. So I filled that gap this way, where like I get, people fired up and music's blaring and all that kind of stuff. And I'm feeling that energy come back, but it's really focused on being consistent, being able to flip that switch to bring that passion and energy and hope to the various things, both personally and professionally, I need to do. So that's really my focus is not, I really think my last 6 months of focus was finding the switch. So my Q1 22 is flipping the switch.
Flip the switch. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's something that all of us should be inspired to do, is flip that switch. So
for sure. So
that's
let's get into,
that's a great, image too.
Yeah.
And think about it. Like when we walk in a room, what's the first thing you do?
Yeah. You got to turn that switch on. When you walk into a meeting, you got to turn that switch on. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
and decide how you want it. So am I filming? So I need darker and in some different light, or do I need it to be a bright room? Like, all that, like how bright of a switch do we have to flip and being intentional and knowing that? Yeah.
It reminds me.
Are you giving me a title of my next book? Is that what that is?
No, I don't know, but it just kind of stirs my thoughts. There was a card, Marriott used to have a card that said, walk in like you own the place.
Yeah.
And I held on to that key card, and I'm like, that is a powerful message right there.
Nah.
And but what you share is, okay, walk in like you own the place, flip the switch.
Yeah.
Be the guy that flips the switch.
Yeah.
I was at an event just the other night. I walked in and it was dead.
Oh yeah.
And I realized I had two choices, Rick. I could just kind of just meander around, or maybe I could bring a little bit of energy into it.
Yeah. Maybe
I could be at least bring a little bit of focus. And I tried. I was somewhat successful, but I tried to flip the switch. But your thought, I love that term, flip the switch. Anyway, awesome. I'm not going to steal that from you. That's great.
That's all right. But this is the point of the podcast too, right? We bring these things out. So let's get into then, we ended last year with our words. And so what if we land the plane here, share last year's word, and then share the word for 2022.
Okay, great. I love this. This is one of the most powerful exercises that you can do, guys. And we want to invite you to do this too, is, you can do New Year's resolutions and have goals, and those are great. Not pushing against those, but the most powerful thing that I've ever done is taking a few minutes and thinking about what's the one word that you want to represent and have reflected of the year that's upon you, that's coming upon you. So now you've just started 2022. It's not too late to do this. Don't worry about the New Year's resolutions per se. I mean, yes, if you got some, go after, but what's the one thing? And that one thing is that one word. It's a powerful exercise. My word, Rick, last year was connection. And that word will continue to live on. It's not my word for 2022, but for 2021, it was a powerful word. It was realizing that I've got to maintain these connections, that this isn't an area that I love to do. You and I, we connect. I love that aspect, and I've got to step into that strength. And sometimes I'm hesitant to do that. So that's what I wanted 2021 to be about. And I want to continue to do that. However, my word, and I just gave you my word of the book, it's also my word for the year, is imagine. Because imagine has done more for me, that word, when I was younger, than I have given it credit before. And I realized that I need to get that back in play. That element of imagination, and I'm just using the word imagine, is such a powerful tool. It's a prompt. Imagine if, right? And then you can fill in the blanks on tons of different scenarios. And it really kind of creates an image for us. We just talked about last week a book called The Alchemist. And it's essentially a book about Santiago, and he imagines a different future. He imagines these different elements to it, and he steps forward in it, and he calls that his personal legend. But let's go back and watch that. But imagine's my word. That's my word for 2022. How about you?
Nice.
What's your word?
So interesting. So 2020, I had picked transition, and of course walked away from a number one revenue source, filed for divorce, and then the pandemic hit, right? So I think I nailed 2020. 2021, my word was stabilize. Yeah. Because of all the transition, it was time to all right, there was a lot of moving parts. 2021 was just kind of finding my footing again, getting into new routines, knowing there was a lot of change. I just wanted to be a stabilizing force in that, which leads me then to 2022, which is accelerate, is my word. It's the image that I want to live with throughout this year is my foot on the gas. It's okay. We took time to transition. We took time to stabilize. Now it's time to accelerate and start to start getting back into kind of that fast pace of dream chasing that I've done throughout my career. So for me, it's accelerate. Let's get that foot on the gas, and let's go, baby. Let's go.
Let's do it. I like it. Accelerate, man. This is good. All right. So lots of good stuff in this episode. So first of all, let me just say something real quick. You took all of us through this really cool, great way to engage with the group, a breakout session. You've given us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I wasn't really ready for any of them, but hopefully I gave you the answers that you're looking for. I'm going to reflect on these further, but I think there's a lot of power in questions, and that's what you've given us, a gift of questions. So I want to encourage folks, as my tip and challenge is, identify those questions, identify the questions that you think are really going to move people. Going back to Dan Pink's To Sell Is Human, what's going to move somebody? And questions kind of provide that space for you to have reflection on what it is that folks want, need, desire, and use those questions. They're coaching questions, if you want to call them that. I think they're powerful. Rick, that was a great exercise. So.
Yeah. And to be clear, I stole that from Brendan and stole most of the questions from Brendan, but it's an experience that I think really gives an opportunity for you to not only learn about other people, but, all of a sudden when somebody says, what's your goal for Q1 2022? And you're like, oh, crud, I don't know. Like I wasn't ready for that question. I have no idea. And just to even put some quick thought behind that, and then to articulate that to somebody who can hold you accountable, somebody you work with, I think is really important as well. So it's a cool way to build, back to your word, Paul, engagement with people versus just, you have these team meetings and everybody has their reports, and, we do that, right? In our all hands, each one of the executives goes around and talks about what's happening in their area, gives insight to everybody in the company. But then we do this breakout. And so again, it's generally different. We've got like 60 people at our company right now, but I have different people every time that we experience that with, and you get to know about them on a little bit more personal level. It starts to build that connection within the organization as well.
Love it. That's great. Cool. Well, this has been fun. What a great season. Season 3 has been a blast, man. We've had so much fun, and we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And season 4, we'll put a little teaser out there here soon, guys, but just know that we got something special planned for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get some focus. We're going to bring some subject matter experts in, and you'll get a chance to really hear and learn from some of the best, some of their insights, and gain perspective. And it's another means for engagement. So Rick, I've really enjoyed this, man. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Fantastic season, partner.
Yeah. I'll let you kind of close it out. So thank you again for bringing these questions to the table.
Yep. So season 3 is officially over. Season 4, we're planning right now. Again, we encourage you. I think what we'll do too is we'll throw a few of our favorite episodes in there in the meantime, in between time, while we bake on this season 4. But we're very, very grateful to all of you that have been a part of this journey with us as well. We've seen, our audience grow more and more through Empowered Living and through people that are engaging with us in all the various podcast platforms. So share us with a friend, and please, please, please reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, any of those things. But if there's been anything in any of these episodes in season 3 that's moved you or that you're carrying with you, we'd love to hear about that. You can engage us anytime. Otherwise, we're going to see you in the new year as we roll out season 4. We'll talk to you then.
See you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to the Breaking Average podcast. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe. All opinions and comments expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions or views of any of the advertisers, producers, or platforms. This show was produced by R2 Multimedia. A special thank you to Milestone Melodies for our theme music. As you continue your day, what is one action that you can apply from this podcast to your life? Tune in for our next episode as we continue to challenge everyone to break average.